Welcome to the Mind Fuck Podcast. Yay! Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for taking time out to hang out with me. I'm really grateful you're here. My name is Wanu Aleshe, and sometimes I do go by Amazing Soul. Welcome to the Mind Fuck Podcast. FCK stands for fun, compassion, and kindness. Ah, we have a little tradition that we do on the show where I read a list that I titled Reminders to Being Human. And the intention behind that list is to remind myself and also to remind you on your journey. All right, let's get into it. Reminders to being human. Have fun along the journey. Show yourself compassion. Be kind to others. Being complex and being simple can hold true in the same breath. Stay curious. Hold space for pauses. Hold space for not knowing. Never underestimate the power of silence. Nature has a lot of wisdom. Pay attention. There is power in we than I. If nothing else makes sense, come back to love. Pain is our greatest teacher. And the very last one, never underestimate your ripple of existence. Welcome once again. Let's now get into the very fun part of the show. All right. Okay, so as always, I want to start off with something honest. You see, for a long time, I tried to regulate my nervous system with positive affirmations. I mean, just constantly telling myself, I am calm, I am calm. And some days saying I am calm consistently, it felt good. But on other days, it felt like I was arguing with my body. And if you've ever tried to tell yourself, I am calm, while your chest feels tight, your jaw is clenched, and your brain is scanning for threat, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So today, I want to explore something that shifted everything for me on my journey. Neutral questions. Because what I have learned through my own journey, especially leaving the army in 2022, dealing with lower back pain, barely sleeping 2 to 4 hours a night, is this. Your nervous system doesn't respond to what sounds good. No, it responds to what feels believable. Let me take you back to a time in my life, the exact moment when I was medically transitioning out of the army and my system was constantly bracing. I mean, I had excruciating pain in my lower back. I was hypervigilant for years because of the high pace structure, and my sleep was completely dysregulated. And I remember lying awake at 3 a.m. repeating affirmations because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. Want to be calm. I am calm. I am calm. I am calm. And my body felt like it was saying, no, you're not. Not because I was in any immediate danger, but because my system had been trained to anticipate threat. And when there is a gap between what you say and what your body feels, the nervous system doesn't relax. It actually tightens. Because now it's not just dysregulated, it's confused. Now, let me talk about why. You see, affirmations are a declarative statement. I mean, they tell the body something is true. Like telling your body, I am confident, I am calm, I am safe. But what I have noticed is if your lived experience contradicts that statement, even subtly, your system will resist it. Not because you're broken, no, but because your nervous system is built for consistency. And it's constantly scanning for coherence. If your chest is tight and you say, I am relaxed, your system may interpret that as internal dishonesty. And when the body senses dishonesty, it doesn't soften. It actually braces because safety is built on internal truth. Now, here's where neutral questions changed everything for me. So instead of telling myself, I am safe, I started asking a different question. I started asking, what would safety feel like right now for me? Right? I mean, instead of telling myself, I am calm, I asked myself instead, what would 2% more calm feel like in my body? Right? Instead of saying, I trust myself, I asked a different question. What would it look like to trust myself just a little bit in this moment? And something subtle but powerful started to happen. My body did not argue because questions don't force, questions invite. You see, I'll share something with you. When I was in the thick of my sleep dysregulation, I mean, waking up around 2 or 3 a.m., because sometimes not even sleeping at all, affirmations felt like pressure, like telling myself, one day you should be asleep, you should be calm. My body wasn't calm. So instead, I started telling myself, what does my body need right now, in this moment, while I'm awake in the middle of the night? Not what my mind thinks it should need, right? I mean, what does my body really need? And the answer was simple stuff like just drinking water, right? Feeling the water going through my throat, a hand on my chest, right? It might be just getting out of my bed for 5 minutes instead of like fighting me being awake. Just simple stuff. And that question over time created collaborations because I've seen in my journey, affirmation in the past created resistance. And I'll tell you that there's actually a neuroscience behind this. Questions, they activate curiosity in your brain. Curiosity shifts your brain out of threat detection and into exploration mode. And exploration is incompatible with panic. So when you ask yourself a neutral question, your brain moves from this is wrong to what is happening. Do you see the difference? And that shift alone can reduce the intensity of a stress response. Because now you're not fighting your nervous system states. You're simply observing what's going on in your body. I also developed like this small practice that I still use till now, right? When I feel an emotional charge, especially in my chest area, I pause. I don't label it. I don't try to calm it. I don't say I am peaceful. I don't say any of that. No. I simply ask myself and get curious. What is this sensation? And then I internally tell myself, I am simply noticing the sensation in my chest area. Do you see the difference? There's no drama, there's no fixing, there's no spiritual bypassing, just noticing it. And I hold that awareness sometimes for 90 seconds. It might be less sometimes, it might be more sometimes. And I do that multiple times a day. Over time, the charge started to decrease, right? And it wasn't because I forced it to. It was because I stopped arguing with my body. On my journey, I think one of the reasons affirmations sometimes backfire is because they can subtly invalidate the inner child. You see, if your inner child learned hypervigilance before you even had language, I mean, through cultural pressure, through physical discipline, through high performance environments, your system is patterned around survival. And then as an adult, you say, I am completely safe. No, because the body learned for so many years to brace at 5 years old, right? And it needs to be heard before it can soften. So neutral questions creates a space for that. I mean, asking yourself questions like, what are you feeling right now? What feels threatening right now? What feels unfamiliar right now? I mean, when I started really doing this honestly, I realized something. I wasn't anxious because I was weak. No, I was anxious because my system had learned that staying alert was protective. And when I acknowledged that honestly, instead of trying to override it with positivity, my body began to trust me more. That's the power of curiosity on this journey, my friend. And there's also something important about believability, right? If you're in chronic pain like I was a few years ago, my saying my body feels amazing feels very absurd. It feels like a lie to the body, but asking, what is one part of my body that feels neutral right now? That question is believable. Maybe your hands are warm. Maybe your feet is grounded. Maybe your breath isn't as tight as your back. Those are believable. Now, neutral questions, they shrink the gap between reality and regulation. And that gap matters a lot because the nervous system does not need perfection. It needs progress it can feel. Now, I want to be very, very clear about something. Affirmations are not bad. No. In fact, they can be powerful, especially when they're aligned with your current capacity. Now, if you're already feeling relatively safe, affirmations can reinforce that. Yes, I experienced that on my journey. But if your system is dysregulated, affirmations can sometimes feel like you're gaslighting yourself, and your body knows the truth. I've had seasons where affirmations worked beautifully. They did, right? And I've had seasons, especially in 2022, where it felt like pressure to my body. And during that time, neutrality was the medicine that I needed. Here's another example. When I was people pleasing heavily, especially when I transitioned out of the military, I used to say, I choose myself, I set boundaries, I honor my needs. But when someone asks me in real time for something, and I felt the surge the surge of urgency in my chest area, those affirmations disappeared. So I shifted to, what happens in my body when I say yes immediately? And what would happen if I waited 10 seconds before answering this person? Before responding to this email, before responding to this text message, I started to feel neutral, observational, and just curious. Started to notice all that sensation in my body. And in those 10 seconds, I could literally feel the difference between urgency and agency. That question alone calmed my system more than any affirmation. Because here's a deeper truth, right? The nervous system is not is not wired for performance. It's soothed by presence. And affirmations can sometimes become performance, like telling yourself when you don't feel, a certain way, and saying, I am healed, I am abundant, I am evolved. It feels like a lie to your body, but if your body doesn't feel it, it just becomes another role to play and reinforces the loop in your brain. Neutral questions bring you back into your body. I mean, asking yourself, what is happening right now? And right now, my friend, is where regulation lives. Right now. Right now. You see, when I look back on my journey, I mean, just moving from Lagos to New York to the army, I I've seen a pattern. I mean, for years, I tried to outthink my nervous system. I mean, I try to be disciplined about it, try to, motivate my nervous system, try to inspire my nervous system. But I'm telling you, the real shift came when I stopped trying to win against my body and started like partnering with it. Because partnering begins with curiosity, not commands. It's a relationship. And that takes time. Now, let's talk about this very practically, right? So if you're dysregulated right now, try this instead of an affirmation. Instead of telling yourself, I am safe, I want you to ask yourself right now, what is in this room that is not threatening? Instead of saying to yourself, I am calm, I want you to ask yourself, what would one slower breath feel like? Instead of telling yourself, I trust myself, ask yourself, what small decision feels slightly more aligned? Instead of telling yourself, I am confident, ask, what would standing 1% taller feel like? And notice how your body responds. Most of the time, it softens because it's not being forced into a state your body hasn't reached yet. And I'll tell you this, my friend, there's something deeply compassionate about neutrality. Neutrality is not cold, it is grounded. I mean, neutrality says, I don't need you to be different. I just need to understand you. That's what neutrality says. And that's what calms the nervous system over time. Being understood internally is so powerful. You know, I actually think back to a specific night in 2002 where I had constant back pain flaring. Sleep was zero, non-existent, and there was a lot of irritation, frustration. And the old version of me would have said, this shouldn't be happening. I am safe. I am calm. And that night, I decided to ask myself a different question. I asked myself, Wonu, what are you afraid of right now? And the answer really surprised me. And I literally told myself, I'm afraid this pain will never end. That was the truth. And when I truly acknowledged it, instead of covering it with positivity, my body started to exhale. Not because the pain disappeared, because I stopped pretending. That's the core of this episode. Neutral questions create internal honesty. Affirmations can reinforce growth, but honesty is what builds safety, and safety is what calms the nervous system. So, which one actually calms your nervous system? I don't know. It depends on where you are right now in your journey. If your system is stable, affirmations can amplify that stability. Yes. If your system is dysregulated, neutral curiosity is often more effective because you can't override a survival response with a slogan. No, the only way you soften that is with presence. Remember, my friend, less intensity, more consistency. Less intensity, less perfection, more consistency. Here's something you can actually experiment with today. When you feel an activation, pause and ask yourself, what is my body trying to protect me from? And I want you to hold that question without rushing to answer. Just simply notice the sensation that's coming up in your body. Notice the shift and then ask, what would 5% more safety feel like right now? Not 100%, just 5% more. And that, my friend, is how regulation compounds gently, incrementally, believably, over time. Over time, my friend, with patience. It takes a lot of patience on this journey. I'll leave you with this. The goal is not to become someone who never feels dysregulated. No, no, no. The goal is to become someone your body trusts. And the body trusts consistency. Your body trusts honesty. Your body trusts curiosity. Sometimes that sounds like I am safe. And sometimes it sounds like, what would safety feel like right now? And pay attention to which one your body responds to. Because your nervous system already knows the answer. You just gotta listen. That's it. You just gotta listen, my friend. And learning to listen without forcing it might be one of the most radical forms of self-trust you can practice on your journey. As always, I want to thank you so much for taking time out to listen. I want to thank you so much for being here. And I'm sending you so much love from my heart to yours. Thank you.